Nebraska has their biggest game of the year this Saturday versus number 21 Michigan. And in order for us to get it done, we need to be as healthy as possible. But unfortunately, that's not the case. On today's video, I'm going to give you a comprehensive injury update for this team. Who's going to be questionable going into Saturday, who's going to be out, who's going to be in, and so much more. So really quick, if you're excited about this matchup, I know I am, hit that like button. And also, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? For daily content talking Huskers, it's no brainer. It takes 2 seconds. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, we have a lot to talk about. As we always talk about on this channel, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And in order for Nebraska to be that team that everybody's expecting to win 8, 9, 10 plus games, it's not just about having talent and being coached well. It's about being healthy. And unfortunately, the Huskers have dealt with a little bit of the injury bug to begin the season. So I want to start things off with all the players who are banged up, who will play versus Michigan, who won't, and everything else you need to know. Number 1. Malcolm HARTZOG, starting nickel corner for the Huskers, who is out versus Houston Christian. He's had a lingering injury over these past couple weeks. It wasn't on one particular play, like people were trying to go back to the Akron game, Cincinnati game, see where he got injured. It just has happened over the course of the start of the season, right? It's wear and tear. Now, it's a lower body injury. I believe it's dealing with his ankle. Now, the coaching staff has made very clear that Malcolm HARTZOG will be ready to go versus Michigan, but there is a caveat. He will likely not be 100%. So he's going to play for this ball game, and they kept him out last week versus Houston Christian. It was purely precautionary. He probably could have played versus the Huskies, but they didn't want to risk anything. They didn't want to aggravate his injury any further. So he'll be ready to go versus Michigan, but will he be 100%? Will he be the exact same player he was versus Cincinnati? Probably not, because it's going to take some time. So Malcolm HARTZOG, again, probably an ankle injury. I know it's a lower body for sure. Definitely something that you need to watch out for over the course of the year, but also should be mentioned around him and the rest of the secondary. We have some depth pieces. So let's say Malcolm does re-aggravate that in the second quarter, in the third quarter. We can put in a guy like Donovan Jones, who's played really well, or Jameer Khan, or even an Amari Sanders, right? So Malcolm HARTZOG, yes, is he banged up? Yes, will he play? But if he does re-aggravate that, or maybe he's just not the same player, or maybe he's getting burnt, we have other options. But some good news there on Malcolm HARTZOG. Despite him not playing versus Houston Christian, he should play versus the Wolverines. Second guy who was also out versus Houston Christian. This was a complete shocker. Buda Wright. Now, Buda Wright's been dealing with a couple things. Of course, also a lower body injury with his knee. But again, the blood clots, right? That's a huge issue with Buda, where he's been dealing with it ever since he got to Nebraska back in 2019. It's really nothing he can control, nothing we can control, where, you know, when he practices too much, the blood clots come back. So Buda Wright, you know, with him, right, he's always limited. Every single practice week, he's limited. He can never fully participate because it just, for whatever reason, when he does, those blood clots return to his body. So he was out last week for a very similar reason, right? They just didn't want to risk anything with him. They want to make sure he's ready to go for these significant ball games. So yes, Buda Wright will be playing tomorrow, or excuse me, not tomorrow, but on Saturday. But again, just something to keep your eyes out for, because again, last week, very similar. It was precautionary, but with these blood clots, they're just so unpredictable. So you hope that, again, Vincent Shavers can continue to improve. You know, some of our other guys like Jacob Bauer, Dawson Merritt, right, will continue to give him good snaps. Maybe if Javin were to go down week 6, week 7 with something that unfortunately has derailed his career. But good news, he will play versus Michigan. And then I want to have a conversation about Demitrius Bell, because I mean, I get this question all the time. Will Demitrius Bell return this season for the Huskers? Will he be back for the Michigan game? And I'm going to go back to what I told you guys just a couple weeks ago. I believe Demitrius Bell will be medically redshirted, right? It's been on that trajectory, and it's not because he's still injured, right? It looks like his knee is 100% repaired, but they're taking it incredibly slow because they know what happened with Mac Markway. He had the exact same injury. They brought him back, and he re-aggravated it, and he re-tore his ACL. And it happened with Teddy Prohaska, it happened with Thomas Fidone back in the day. They don't want Demitrius Bell to be that exact same culprit. And he's also, you know, had a bunch of swelling in his knee. He's had a bunch of pain when he's tried to practice. So Demitrius Bell, I expect him to be medically redshirted once again. He's going to have all 4 years of eligibility going next year, assuming he's still on this team. Incredibly talented, but again, it's just one of those guys where, yes, again, his upside is sky high, but when you can't get healthy and stay healthy, you got to start asking yourself if football's really meant for you. Right. And it's, again, nothing he can control. It's just the way it goes. But his body's really significantly been impacted by the knee injury that he had over a year and a half ago. So he won't be playing versus Michigan. And again, he might be back. Best case scenario, he's back by mid to late October. But at that point in time, he's so down on the depth chart because he hasn't practiced in literally a year and a half. He's just going to be a practice player. So he's going to medically redshirt. So unfortunate for Demitrius Bell, but we're thankful that guys like Cortez Mills and Quinn Clark have stepped up in his absence. Then talking about Gabe Moore, who just got injured last week versus Houston Christian. He's somebody who everybody was talking about. He was the big highlight player versus Akron. He had some really good snaps, transfer to Mississippi State. So again, he's dealt with injuries all throughout his career. He was finally healthy. It was a big storyline. And who would have guessed that Gabe Moore went down versus Houston Christian with a knee injury. So it did look significantly terrible, right? He walked off under his own power, but I do not expect Gabe Moore to play versus Michigan. If he does play, it's going to be in a very limited role because very similar to these other guys, maybe this knee injury isn't the worst in the world. It looked to me like he probably hyperextended it, which means, again, isn't significant, but they don't want to re-aggravate it because Gabe Moore, his tendencies have shown that he's made of glass a little bit, right? Where, yeah, he'll get injured time and time again. You got to make sure he's healthy and keep him there, okay? If he's playing 60%, he's going to go down to 20% very quickly. So Gabe Moore, I do not expect him to play versus Michigan. And that's honestly a bigger loss than what people are giving credit for simply because he played some really good snaps against Akron and against Houston Christian. And we need all hands on deck in this defensive line performance because we're going up against one of the best rushing attacks in America. And a couple other guys I want to get to. Jeremiah Jones has been dealing with a little bit, once again, of a lower body injury that's been happening over these past couple weeks. He was out last week versus Houston Christian. I do expect him to be out once again versus Michigan. So again, he's pretty down the depth chart. He wouldn't play any significant snaps versus the Wolverines anyways. But it's unfortunate with Jeremiah. He's only played in one game so far this year. He might be redshirted at this rate, just kind of having a lingering injury. And again, the coaching staff, they don't want to risk anything, especially if you're a true freshman. If you're a true freshman, we're not going to go put you on the field and have you get injured and then have you burn your red shirt for no reason, right? So I might as well just redshirt him. But Jeremiah Jones probably will not play versus the Wolverines. Two others, Amari Sanders has been dealing with a little bit of a lingering lower body injury, very similar. He did play last week versus Houston Christian, and he played well. So again, he probably will suit up versus Michigan, but should be noted that if he's in the ball game, watch out because he's not 100% right now. Along with a couple other guys in the secondary, like we know HARTZOG's not 100%. Deshaun's going through some things. Deshaun will play, but he's not 100%. Sears had kind of a little bit of a hamstring throughout fall ball that he should be recovered from now. He's played very well. But just know this secondary in general has had some injuries. Even like Mario Buford's been banged up. Larry Tarver's been banged up. But same deal there with Amari Sanders. But all those guys should play absolutely versus Michigan. And last but not least, Mekhi Nelson. We have to talk about him. Well, Mekhi Nelson, he didn't get injured last week. First Houston Christian, we know that Matt Rule talked about it after the game and said it was his decision that Mekhi Nelson will not play. So obviously we can lead to conclusions he was likely suspended. Now I heard probably what it was. Again, it's just a rumor, so I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was nothing serious. That's what I will tell you. It wasn't serious. It was a non sequitur. But when you're a Nebraska football player, we know that we have very high expectations and we have very strict rules, because if you don't have strict rules, how good of a program are you really if you're letting your players do whatever they want? So Mekhi Nelson, again, from what I heard, wasn't a big deal, and he should be playing versus Michigan. But here's the big caveat, right? With him not playing last week versus the Huskies, he allowed Quinn Ives to get his snaps, and it's very clear, at least clear to me, that Quinn Ives is now running back too. And Quinn's somebody who always does all the right things off the field, right? He's had some issues with injuries particularly, but from an off-the-field standpoint, Quinn's been fine. So I believe that, yes, Mekhi Nelson will be ready to go next week. What is his workload going to look like? It's probably significantly decreased given the fact that Quinn Ives has took his reps. Quinn Ives is now running back 2. Isaiah Mozee's role has not changed. He's running back 3 / our hybrid wideout. Mekhi Nelson, unfortunately, is probably running back 4, which is not too shocking. And Mekhi Nelson, in my opinion, just hasn't really played well like the beginning of the year. He didn't play well versus Cincinnati. I was honestly kind of disappointed with him versus Akron. I think he pretty much had no yardage. He averaged like 2 yards a carry versus the Zips. So it's not a huge deal, but wanted to give you guys that update there. But he'll be active. I want to make that very, very clear. He will be active versus Michigan, but will he be running back 2 anymore? Probably not. But other than that, nothing else in the injury report. Jacory Barney is still a little bit banged up. Like he still has that ankle that he had versus Cincinnati, but as you guys saw versus Akron and versus Houston Christian, yes, he's banged up, but Jacory's Jacory. Even though he's not 100% healthy, he's going to still play at a high level, so that's not a concern. Emmett's ready to go. He's not really dealing with much. Dylan's been perfectly healthy, which is great to hear. This offensive line, for the most part, is incredibly healthy. So once again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Healthiest team wins. Let's go. We will find out on Saturday. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. Hey, if you made this far, hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, it's going to be great. Go at rule, and I'll see you in the next one.